we haven't had a lot of rain recently. Tampa, we've gone about, 11 or 12 days now without any measurable rainfall. So we're going to get into rain for you. We're going to get into rain in some spots here, maybe along the Florida Panhandle. The moisture, though, is getting a squeeze play right over this zone because that dry air has come all the way down almost to the Gulf Coast here, all behind this front here. It's made such a big difference for so many of you, and we'll talk about that. But I want to talk about the place where we still have the moisture sticking around, where the dew points are still up there, where it still feels so sticky. Nothing's changed. If anything, it's gotten a little worse, and we've got the showers to go along with that. Now, here we go, Tampa. We've got some rain chances coming in this morning. There'll be some thunder and lightning with that as well. There may be some severe weather today. The main risk would be damaging winds, some of those strong downburst winds that come out of thunderstorms. It's a possibility. It's not every storm will be like that. Every storm will probably have some lightning, and so that's going to be a risk that we have to deal with today as well. Here we go, taking you through the day. Now, this is looking ahead at the model forecast, and you know how it is with this kind of convection or thunderstorm activity in the summertime. It's difficult to pinpoint exactly where the storms are going to be, but it gives you a flavor of we're going to have a lot of activity across the area, widespread across central Florida, Tampa to Orlando. We've got showers out there, maybe even continuing into the overnight hours, so this isn't just a link to the daytime heating thing. And this rainfall could add up. If you've been outside at all lately, you know how humid it is across this zone, and so there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and so when it rains, it is going to pour. And we're going to have to keep an eye on just too much rain at once, really, which would be the main concern. And the bigger rainfall rates, which could add to some flash flooding concerns. This front that came through the south, it's not going anywhere for a while, so it's going to stay there for the next couple of days and help focus in some of that moisture right in that zone. We've got the forecast for you into Thursday as well. Still a wet one around Tampa, Orlando, Gainesville, down towards Fort Myers. We've got rain for you as well, Naples included. And, in the overnights, as typical, we'll have, some quieter times here, but it'll flare up again as we get into your Friday as well. Now, mentioned the tropical moisture. So begs the question, are we worried about development in the Gulf of Mexico? Whenever it's the front, you got to watch it.
It's a couple things, actually. I'm just watching your hit. There is a little bit of a circulation off the southeast coast on Friday that may develop along the front. We've got to watch out for that. That's not really circled, but there is some chance for development. Jen, you're right. Off the southeast coast. Yeah, that was off the southeast coast.
Yeah. No, I mean, these fronts, you got to watch them this time of year.
Right. And then in addition to that, it's that other thing you were mentioning, maybe in the Gulf of Mexico by the end of the weekend or next week. Let's talk about that.
Jen, that we've seen so far. So we're going to inject some of this tropical moisture in, which will be beneficial.
I mean, it does seem more California than Arizona, but anyone, I'm sure, will take the rain.
Absolutely. Well, the beach may be the hot spot to beat the heat, but I'm surprised at my answer right now.
Oh, really? No. You can go to X and now Threads to send us your comments and tell us your favorite coasters as well. Their best life. Thunderstorms have had so much energy to tap into lately. What a summer it has been. The Storm Protection Center has been going on nonstop now for nearly 70 days with outlooking this risk of thunderstorms here. Normally in the summertime, you get some breaks. You get a little summer vacation from the storms. It hasn't been happening. And so today's risk area is going to be up here into the upper Midwest. Here, a very active pattern with our little spokes of energy coming through this zone. The storm track takes storms today into Minnesota, into Wisconsin, and we do have all modes of severe weather possible. The most likely threat is going to be damaging winds, and I think hail could be a possibility as well. Right now, we're doing okay, but you see the general flow coming in here with the clouds moving from northwest, coming in towards the east or even southeast, so that the energy is actually much farther to the north in Manitoba. What we're going to see up front is some energy extend down here into portions of northern Minnesota. Here comes the front, and we're going to be watching this press east as we get through the day today, this afternoon into tonight. That'll help to trigger some thunderstorms. We'll see that across western Wisconsin, maybe the UP of Michigan. That happens as we get into the evening hours. So there'll be some energy out there, enough anyway, but the wind energy is really what we're looking at. So instability is one thing. This is the wind energy that is really going to drive that risk of damaging winds here with thunderstorms that do form, and we'll see that beginning later on this afternoon. This is about 2 or 3 o'clock or so out ahead of the front, so it'll be a line of storms most likely that develops. We see that move east as we get into the late night hours. This is now 10 o'clock. Storms moving into Wisconsin, up here across the UP. We've got a couple of scattered showers following behind it, just with the upper level energy that's associated with this whole complex of storms. So we watch that impact in terms of thunderstorms and the lightning and the risk of severe. We also have some concerns along the beaches. High waves are expected. dangerous rip currents as well. Swimming here is really not advised on both shores of Lake Michigan. We're going to have to watch that here through the day today and maybe even tomorrow as well. The rip current risk is very high, especially over there on the west side of Lake Michigan, on the Wisconsin side. Alex?
Well, you know, there are
And wondering, is anything going to develop? And then all of a sudden, everything starts becoming interesting.
We talked about that. We were talking about normally the waiting game, late July, early August.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything, you're like, where is it? Well, it oftentimes comes a little bit later.
Yeah. Now we have the Eastern Pacific, which is active here, the Central Pacific too. So I want to start with that and give you an update on the weather that we can expect in Hawaii as we continue watching the recovery there. So let's get to that. You know, today we're going to be watching perhaps some breezy conditions. A few showers out there this morning. We've got that going on right now. You know, this has been the case every single night. They're very few and far between. They're pretty light showers here. It's mainly the windward part of the island that's getting into the showers of all the islands here. And again, few and far between. Winds right now are fairly light. They should ramp up a little bit more today. We're expecting some gusty conditions. Lahaina is going to 87, Kahului be 89. So it's hot. If there is any rain chances, it's more likely to be on the island of Kauai for today. Now, the drought, of course, the update comes out every Thursday. The severe drought on the island of Maui that has been the hardest hit, but we do drought on every single island at least a little bit. So rain would be welcome here when you take a look at just all of the islands in general here in Hawaii. Lahaina, the forecast here is hot and dry today. We've got 87 degrees. The winds again could be gusty at times. Not expecting the kind of wind event like we had last week, but there could be some gusty winds. We're going to watch for the dry conditions with a pretty benign forecast for the rest of the week and weekend, and then we start to get into some rain chances on Monday. That's because of something happening in the tropics. So two things going on out here. Tropical Storm Greg staying well south of Hawaii, and that's going to continue moving westbound here, not have a direct impact at all, or even indirect really for that matter. Hurricane Fernanda is going to keep on weakening, but it's going to bring some moisture to the island. So that's what we want to look at. Here's Greg. Again, you can see how far south it is, more than 850 miles away from the islands. It's going to keep on that westward track. It's going to start going down in terms of intensity starting tomorrow, and we'll see that continue to weaken as it goes, again, staying well south. Now, Hurricane Fernanda, it's a Cat 1. This thing has been weakening. It doesn't look at all like it did 3 days ago or 2 days ago when it was a Cat 4. Now, we're going to be watching, though, the moisture and the DNA from this track closer to the island chain. And what that's going to do is just increase the available moisture there, especially for the Big Island as we get into early next week. That's the timing. So Sunday into Monday, you can see how this moisture comes in. And we'll be watching for some rain chances. The key here is that you don't get too much at once so we don't get any flooding. But in terms of moisture, we do need it, considering that we're in a drought. We definitely want to have any additional fire danger. Now, we go from what's happening in the Pacific to what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico. This is some new threat areas, Greg. Things are looking interesting in this forecast. Phoenix, we're looking at you. We've got some clouds, right? That would be great. Phoenix, though, we have been hot and we have been dry. Rain in the forecast isn't typically a good thing, right? But folks in Phoenix have been waiting for it. Only a trace of rain fell at the airport for the entire month of July. Normally, we average about an inch. And let me tell you, Phoenix, we are on a record-long dry streak. We're sitting at number 2 right now here in August. 146 days without rain. The last time it rained, it was in April. The last really good rain we had was April 15th. So it's been a long time. It's been a very hot and dry summer. Phoenix, we are down nearly 3 inches of rainfall. It's our driest monsoon on record so far. Flagstaff, we've actually had a little bit of rain, but we're still running actually in terms of where we are, not just year to date, but looking at the monsoon season. It's been our top driest monsoon. So this rain we got earlier in the year. So it's all about these past couple of months. The drought monitor shows some areas that are dry and actually some moderate drought that has expanded now in parts of Arizona, despite the fact that we had some good rain over the winter months. And so getting some moisture out here would be key. Will we get it from something in the tropics in the Eastern Pacific? Well, let's look at this. This is Invest 90E right now. It's got a 90% chance of developing. Look at the projected area that we have for development here. It's paralleling right along the coast of Mexico. We're going to watch this moisture, and there's plenty of it right now. Again, looking pretty good at the moment here on the satellite pictures. Watching this moisture and tracking it, moving all the way up here along the Baja of California and seeing moisture come into California, perhaps into southern Nevada, maybe even parts of Arizona as well. So this would bring some needed moisture up to this area. Alex, we just watch for any problems that can come with too much at once.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt about it.
Earlier this season, we were showing how off the charts they are. the Gulf is the same way.
Record warm temperatures overall in the Gulf of Mexico are in place right now. We've never seen it this warm in the bigger view. Some places here and there, yeah, it's been this warm, but look at the numbers overall. I mean, we're in the mid to high 80s for the vast majority of the Gulf of Mexico. We've never seen it that warm on average.
It's one thing to have one spot here, but it's like the whole Gulf is in that range.
That's right, and it's way above average, 3 to 5 to even more than that degrees above average in lots of places.
You know, it's been like this all summer too, which means like that deeper water can the water underneath it can, overturn, and it's all warm across this area, and it's affecting the air.
It's affecting the air. Let's get to that because that's really important, because the warmer the water you have, you're more likely to get more water vapor into the atmosphere above it, which would increase the dew points. So imagine that the dew points above the Gulf of Mexico, above this very warm water, they're higher than average too, and all it takes is a little bit of a wind to bring that air from the Gulf of Mexico inland to many places along the Gulf Coast, and that's part of the reason why we've seen these incredibly high dew points across places like New Orleans.
Yeah. And for prolonged periods, it's not like we're dealing with an hour a day. No, this is hour upon hour upon hour. We've just been stuck in this just soupy air mass.
This is a great graphic.
Yeah. It explains what has been going on this summer that so many have been feeling. No, you're not wrong. It has been way more humid than usual.
Way more humid than average. Dew points at 76 or above in 2023, nearly 900 hours through the last couple of days of the season so far. That's way above average, almost 3 times. If you want to go to dew points even higher, we've seen a whole lot of days, in fact, where in New Orleans the dew point was 78 or above. Again, 3 times plus above average. And the same thing with dew points above 80. Wow, 4 times the number of hours where dew points have been above 80 so far this season.
And so then that affects our temperatures overnight. We can't drop off. We can't cool down. When dew points are high, the air temperature is not going to go below the dew point temperature.
That's exactly right. And Baton Rouge, Louisiana, just a bit to the west, right? Look at the lows this year. How many of them have been at or above 80? 22 days. The previous record was 4 days.
I mean,
that's crazy.
We're just, smashing. Yeah. It's like beyond comprehension how much above average we are.
Obliterating the record books in terms of warm overnight lows and humid air. And look at, we have lows. Yes, we're catching a break a little bit.
Yeah, thank goodness. Tomorrow morning, getting down to 70. Go outside. It's a gift.
Enjoy it.
It's a gift.
Right.
Because it's probably coming back. Yeah. Maybe not to the extent as it was. We'll see, maybe. But the heat and humidity are coming back to the Gulf Coast by the weekend.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Water temperature's not changing.
No.
You see how it all goes hand in hand. Water takes a long time to change, so we're in this for the rest of the summer into early fall. Now, we want to go back to our question of the day. It's not
heat.
Yes.
I do not like heat, but in this situation, no lines trumps the fact that it is hot.
Go to a water park.
Oh.
Great, just found a loophole in our question.
Right. There's the loophole. Morning hours.
The Weather Channel helping you plan for all of your big events ahead. Yeah, we're approaching that peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. 85% of the activity left to go, and you can see how the curve kind of changes now, ramping up here in a more sharp fashion. This is the time of year when things really do ramp up.
Yeah, it's expected, and it's happening. I mean, I guess sometimes that doesn't always match up, but it's happening now. Mid-August, we're starting to see a lot of activity out there.
Absolutely. And, of course, a storm. Really the last thing that folks there in Hawaii need as they work to recover out there. So much to get done before that next chance for rain does arrive. But there is that chance that sneaks in here across parts of the Hawaiian Island chain over the coming days.
Yeah, we're going to get you up to date right now on the latest with the deadly wildfires that tore Florida. So let's show you how things are going to play out for the rainfall. And we had the storms yesterday in the Triangle area around Durham, some really strong downburst winds. But now that dry air has moved in, and it's a much different scenario. You can see that through Georgia, through parts of Alabama and Mississippi. So now that moisture is kind of squeezed right down here, coastal South Carolina, Georgia, getting down across all of the Florida Peninsula and parts of the Panhandle as well. That's where we're left with the higher dew points, and that's where we're left with the bigger downpour chances over the next couple of days. A lot of the activity right now is offshore. A little bit of rain out here starting to get into the Tampa-St. Pete area. Tampa, we haven't had much rain the last, 11 or 12 days I think we might be at now without measurable rainfall. We've had some thunder, and parts of town have gotten some, but officially we have not had measurable rain. We're going to have a better chance today, and some of that rain may come with some strong gusty winds. We've got to watch that in Tampa and Savannah. Jacksonville in the mix as well. We could also, of course, have the heavy downpours, which could lead to flash flooding. That's another risk with some of these storms that may pop across this area. We'll see that right through the afternoon. Even overnight, we may still see some ongoing thunderstorms. Again, tomorrow, we've got a chance for storms. The risk area for heavy rain parallels where we're going to see the storms today. So all the way from the Big Bend area, Florida and Cedar Key, all the way up to the Outer Banks, we still could see thunderstorms that bring heavy rainfall. And we're going to see this moisture stick around until at least the rest of the week. I mean, we're not going to see that front make any more progress than it has right now. But it is draped across the southeast, and I always worry about fronts this time of year or clusters of storms. There are things that can spark a little circulation in the tropics. And so, you got to watch that when we're at the peak of the season.
That's right. I mean, Thursday, Friday, just off the southeast coast, keep an eye on that. But there's another thing that we're watching maybe into the Gulf of Mexico late in the weekend next week. Jen, thank you very much.
Though you don't want too much too quickly.
And you don't want lightning strikes because that can spark fires.
So,
there's so many things. We're going to talk more about this, obviously, for, in the coming days here. But what about a beach? That might be a good spot to beat the heat.
Right. It's just being able to get in and out as quickly as possible, no matter what's going on with the weather situation.
You could ride more rides that way.
Absolutely.
Well, you can go to X and now Threads. So much to work with. Instability in the atmosphere, the higher dew points, the wind energy, a lot more than usual. The Storm Prediction Center has been now going strong for more than 60 days. I think they're at 60, probably 70 days now of outlooks for these more intense thunderstorms. Usually in the summertime, we get a little bit of a summer vacation from storms. That just hasn't been happening. Today's risk area, we go to the Midwest yet again. We've got Minnesota, Wisconsin in that zone, parts of the UP of Michigan as well. The system itself driving this is actually centered up in Manitoba, a little farther, but we're going to see the front trailing in, some of that energy trailing south, and some wind energy here pushing through is really what's going to help energize these storms. There will be some instability. That daytime heating will be a factor in that along that front. But as we watch the front push east, the wind energy, I think, becomes even more important because we lose the daytime heating. So even overnight, we will have some thunderstorms. Got to keep an eye on Wisconsin here, the UP of Michigan. Here come the storms. Here comes those stronger winds aloft diving in. That's what will help energize the storms, bringing down some of those stronger winds to the surface. We'll see that risk for the supercell thunderstorms, perhaps, that can really give us some hail as well. That's a possibility. Now, it'll be a line of storms, we think. So we're just going to watch along that line. This is about 4 or 5 o'clock or so, gets going into northern Minnesota. Then we track it here into northern Wisconsin, then to the UP of Michigan about 10 o'clock at night. Behind it, there will still be a couple of scattered showers, some with lightning. I mean, just the instability that's going to be existing back there behind this system. And the front on the move all the way to Chicago. That could be about, between 7 and 9 a.m. Tough timing, Chicago. Your commute tomorrow morning could be affected. Now, we also have some concerns for swimmers here. There is some beach hazard statements issued by the National Weather Service for the risk of high waves, rip currents, dangerous swimming conditions along both coasts of Lake Michigan. So we've got that through tomorrow. We're going to be watching for the higher rip current risk, especially on the western side, but really along all the coast, you've got some chances of seeing those rip currents. And then tomorrow, we track the system east, and here it goes into lower Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Alex.
Well, there are 100